Well, it's a way of working, and I think there's a misconception that it's just technology practices that companies use to build products. But the reality is, there's probably three main dimensions. To run a great company, you have your leadership practices, you've got delivery practices on the things you're trying to produce, and you've got collaboration practices, which how do you get small teams of diverse thinking together where the collective wisdom kind of outweighs the individual insights. And I had experience initially in a small startup, and I thought, boy, it worked really well there, breaking big problems into multiple small problems, multi-processing it. And then I had 7 years of really honing it and figuring out a way to do it at Suncorp, and took an awful lot of that experience, and it was completely transportable to using that at IBM. I don't think so, because IBM being a tech company and Suncorp and ANZ being a bank, the reality is you still have leadership practices. You have to figure out how you form cross-functional teams, how you distribute work in an efficient way that maximizes the throughput of the teams. I mean, a leader's role is quite simple in any company. You give your teams clarity of purpose, you create a good productive work environment, and you inspire them to do great things. And what Agile does is give you a good framework and some different ways of forming cross-functional teams, distribute the work in a different way, and then ultimately measure the things that matter. And then, the focus is around the teams getting better, and that they become self-directed and a bit loosely coupled, but tightly aligned to what the priorities are for the company that's using this product. I think one, because I've been at it for a long time, I know that one, you have to kind of operationalize it. Culture is kind of an ambiguous term, and an agile culture is ambiguous. So for it to really work, you have to make it tangible for employees. It has to be something that you can learn, that you can practice and get better at it, and that you can measure, and that you can show that you're getting better. So in our case, we followed more of a sports metaphor, which we said every great sports team's got a playbook, it's got a good curriculum. So maybe in our case it was 20 or 30 courses and practices. You could use that curriculum, you could learn it, you could go practice it in your team. But then you could also get some coaching help, like any great sports team or a good footy team here in Melbourne would do. And then you measure your results and see that you're getting better, and you make your adjustments. And I think that's the key piece about an agile culture, is that nothing's ever perfect in life. You never know anything end to end from the very beginning. But the key is, if you practice at something and you care about your craft, you get better at it. When you get better at it, you become more competitive. Can be different things in companies. I mean, in a tech company where you're building almost strictly IT products a lot, you're measuring how fast you can get from design to completing it and getting into customers' hands, how much throughput you can get through a certain team, the cycle time that it takes from the time you decide to put new features in a product to the time it actually is in a customer's hands. So you have to figure out the measures that matter for the problems that you're trying to solve. But I think the key is you make those measures visible to the teams that are impacted so that they can get better. And the key is it's a transparency piece, and you really want your squads and teams listening and learning from each other. So there's a big issue, there's a big priority around transparency and making things visible, because if it's visible and people can see it, you can go out and practice it and get better at it. I think there's probably anxiety with leaders, because there's probably a bigger adjustment for leaders where the practitioners on the team, they're the ones on the pitch, and they want to get better, they want to expand their skills, and it's a chance for them to become more multidisciplinary in the skills that they have. So my experience has been the practitioners lap it up, they get better at a faster rate than we ever give them credit for, independent of technology or where they're working. It could be mainframe systems, it could be new digital systems. The reality is, age isn't a matter, technology is not a matter. It's the clarity on the purpose you're trying to solve, and the passion that you bring into it, and that you have diversity of thought. And so it's big how you compose your team, no different than how you compose a great sports team. You have to have good chemistry. You've got to make sure that your tactics that you want to employ match the skills that you have. So my take is, that teams can be successful with this, and the anxiety generally is in the leaders, especially if you've come from a command and control environment. We're used to directing and assigning tasks to people. Now you're creating an environment for people and letting them figure out how to solve the problem.